Alright, welcome back to the Supercoach Nuff channel. In this video we are going to look at NRL Fantasy after round 13 of the 2025 NRL Fantasy season. So another good week for us. It was only best 13, so a 796. It was a pretty good score in the just outside the top 9,000 for the round rank. Did see us move in close to another 1,000 spots. Might have just been a bit over. What were we last week? 6-4. So just under 1,000 spots in. So about 5,500 at the moment. So pretty well positioned in this format. The team this week, Aaron Clark was quite good with 69 points. Again, probably number one hooker, season-long keeper. Terrell May as captain was a great call. 70 points for him. Isaiah Yeo and Payne Haas a little bit down on what we're used to, but 43, 45 backing out from Origin is respectable. Jermaine Hopgood with a 41, so he's just sort of been that middling price and middling points. But our trade-in this week, Kalal Matangi was brilliant, 85 for him. Could have captained him, made a little bit more inroad on the overall. The halves were fantastic. Metcalf with the 76, Cleary with the 73, backing up from Origin. A 38 and a 31 for Lucas and Nwangani Tuase in our centres was good. And then 64 for Campbell in what was pretty wet weather at the Gold Coast. Was amazing. Teddy with 69 was great yesterday at the Sydney Football Stadium. And Fletcher Sharp with the 22 was probably the disappointment of the week, but everyone is allowed a bad game once in a while. We had a pretty good bench too. Unfortunately, none of these scores counted, but Tavanga with 51, Riley Smith with 54. So, we could have potentially plugged those guys in place of Haas and Yeo. Obviously, Aaron Clark would come down here. We could have squeezed a few more points out. Iongi could have got us another 25 points at wing fullback. Savala with 46 was good. And even to King Togia and Pasifiki Tonga getting 30s. That's there's a lot worse scores going around. So pretty happy with how the team is sitting. In terms of the leagues, so I think there was matchups, although it doesn't look like there was in the number one head-to-head league. Don't know what's happened there. So I must have turned it off for all the buys. That's pretty average. But one man Tom with a 775 in the second league. So I'm pretty sure one man Tom was the lad who was copying my team fairly closely. So where have we gone different this week? He's gone Pappy. I've gone Jaden Campbell. That was the difference maker. Other than that, it's all the same. So I like it. Branching out on your own there, Spiro. Still doing well overall, no doubt. But I snuck in a win this week. Elsewhere, let's see, what were the other matchups for this week? So 796, that was my score. 796 for Too Easy as well, so we would have had a draw. Let's have a look at Matt's team. So he had Tarpany instead of Haas for a 50, Siwa Wong for a 66, which is pretty nice on the edge. Played Savala. Had Lucas and is this the right one? Oh, Captain Luke. I was like, Lucas didn't score 76, but he was his captain, so I guess there's probably a couple of nicer scores there. Tamale probably matched Campbell, but Purdue was 65, outpointing Nwangani Tuase. Siwa Wong outpointed Hopgood, but it was just the captaincy shout, I think, that evened me up there. So 796 is still a great score, Matt. Third place overall in the league. Some good stuff. Should probably look at the overall league as well, or the open league. So Liam still sitting on top. How did he go this week? 774 this week. So sitting in the top 150 overall. Good stuff. Keep it going, mates. see if I filter it by round 13, we might get so an 812 for Byron, nice. 829 for Corn on the Cobbo, an 866. Some big scores here, lovely. Let's have a look at Mike's team. Panic at Tedesco with an 866 this week. So he had Captain May, Clark, had Climatangi, Kai Pierce Paul. Really interesting pod, obviously with the Origin availability is very nice. He's still got Jackson Purdue, Rob Toyer still with a 50. Scotty Drinkwater 62 was pretty good in fantasy. And then yeah, looped in Metcalf's 76 score quite nicely there. Well done. Yeah, over Savala with a 46. Good stuff. So, in terms of the team this week, so round 14, obviously we'll probably have a forced move because of the Roosters bye. We can bring Iongi in, and Curran will probably slide up the list. Keep going. Get there eventually. It's a little bit tricky. Obviously, we can't loop in these guys because they played the same game. So we'll probably have to commit to one or the other. So just push these guys up. So I guess, that's how the team currently stands. The issue is we don't have a centre this week. So we have 17, but our backup centre is currently unavailable. So need to make at least one move this week. And I guess as well, we do want to keep one eye on round 15. So if we do move forward to then, Aaron Clark's out, but we can put Jazz Tavanga in at hooker. Obviously, the three middles again, maybe these two obviously, but Terrell May has another bye. So we do have Pasifiki Tonga can come in. We have Curran that can come in. But I think other than that, we're currently one edge short, or one middle short. Hopgood isn't going to play, but we'll probably push Lucas up to the edge. So we've got Lucas and Matangi in the edge positions. Metcalf and Cleary are both out, but we do have Savala and King Togia on the bench, so they'll cover there. Nwangani Tuase should be back next week. We're hoping Kiraz is back next week. So this is the question. Can we hold Kiraz? We do need a centre this week, and we will need one next week if he's not available. So, and then wing fullback, I think we're okay. We've got Sharp, Campbell, Tedesco, all playing next week. So we probably need a middle for Hopgood is probably the one I'm thinking of can go this week. Smith is scoring pretty well. He's probably the one we can let go because we've got hooker coverage with Clark and Tavanga. Pretty comfortable with that at the moment. So we probably don't need a third hooker. But at the same time, he scored a 54 last week. He will make a bit more cash this week. We can squeeze him a bit and then move him on next week, I think. Elsewhere, it's like Curran's going to be good coverage for the buys. These guys are still making a bit of money, and they will play next week anyway. So, yeah. And Iongi is probably another one. He's made a bit of money this week. I forget how much exactly. So, made another 27k. So, he probably still has a nice enough break even to, again, squeeze him for one more game. So, Hopgood is the one on the chopping block. In saying that, probably the ideal upgrade for him, and again, like upgrading from here is a bit tricky. We've only got 560k, but the target would be Couchman. He can cover the middle for us next week, and then he'll probably be, the edge sort of keeper. If we have him in the team here, I've got to make another trade, obviously, but once we lock that in, that starting 13 is starting to look pretty juicy. So that's the goal, is to get him in. As I said, Riley Smith's got a bit more money to make, but he probably is the most expendable. So we get him out. And we do need a centre still. We've still got Marky Mark on field. So we need to find a centre at 374k or less. So players we can afford. So I think if he gets a game this week, we could bring in Nathan Lawson. 250k, should play next week, particularly with Val Holmes out. There's another spot available for if Tui Pilotu's fit and firing. Bradley won't play this week, or probably won't play this week, so not considering him. Leia Tower plays this week, but is on the bye next week, so... Well, actually, he's out injured, isn't he? So forget him. We could go with Montoya, not really fantasy relevant. This is a problem. You start to get to these guys, it's all very rocks or diamonds. Averaging 28 isn't ideal. So it is just sort of taking a punt at this point. Is there any... Yeah, so there's no real sort of rookies on the radar either. So ideally it would be someone like Lawson. Oh, every time. Alright, so I just got to reverse these orders. Let me do it. Such a punish doing trades in fantasy. Confirm trade. Now we can upgrade Hopgood to whoever I want. Go. Confirm that. So then when you look at the team going into this week, as I said, this is pretty schmick. Like, I think going down, if you sort of flip Kiraz in here, I'll just bring Tedesco back into the team. This is pretty well like a keeper starting 13. And then we've got Tavanga, Curran on the bench, which are decent. Like Savala's doing a job. Sam Walker's not too far away. Obviously, we've got a bit of cash on Iongi's head that we could use. Add another 125k. So we've got a pretty decent bench there. And then we've got Nwangani Tuase is that good backline cover. So we've got halves coverage, we've got hooker coverage, middle edge coverage with Curran. So, the basics of the team are there. And then it'll just be trying to finesse them through the bye round. So now we've got Couchman, we're set for round 15. Again, it is dependent on Kiraz. He could be a trade next week. But with his money, we can go anywhere. We can go Farnworth, we could go Iro. We could do whatever we want with that position. So this week, bring Iongi back. So, we could do something like this, because even if Lawson doesn't get up, he would just drop off anyway. We'd just have to play Pasifiki Tonga. Actually, no, sorry, we do have to play him. He's in the centres. Get in here. So we do need a starting centre in here. So it could be someone else. It'll be teamless dependent. I mean, worst case scenario is we just fade Couchman. So if we go back to the trades, I'll just roll back the team. It'll probably not be ideal, but it is what it is. So what we could look at is, again, Riley Smith has that little bit of extra money too, so we trade him out. If we're going to go for like a nice centre that has a good run, I'm pretty keen on getting Purdue back in the team. So again, it's only going to cost us 5k. It's not the end of the world. We could do it in one trade, but we could then potentially sideways Hopgood. So if we have a look at, we need a middle that we can afford. So Jai Arrow fits the bill. I'm pretty sure he's also playing in the front row alongside of Kalal Matangi, so he could do a job for us over the next few weeks. I'll just uncommit to that. Now it's dropped all the cash. Go again. So there are some other options here, but let's put arrow up there. Sorry, let's go back. Centers, Purdue, and then so 555k for a, like, we're looking for a middle edge player, so only the dual. I think I can do dual position only. There we go. So Jai Arrow is an option. Tyson Frizzell could do a job. Just 40s. I probably like the upside of Arrow a little bit more. Samuel Afonu's on the buy, so not the best option. Sam McIntyre could play big minutes next week with, Cotter, Nanai, Robson all out. Like, it does eat into their forward pack, so there could be some good minutes for him. After that, nothing really interests. Bradley Hayward's always one that interests me, but that's just as a Dogs fan. Don't want to overload on Dogs. I think we're okay at the moment. So it's probably Jai Arrow. But it's a question of, do we do that this week or next week? It might come down to break evens. So so those are the two options. If I try to do this, it won't let me because it flips the wrong players around. Such a stupid system. So I'll just have a look. If we do Riley Smith, he's in the centres, isn't he? Alright. Well, this could just address the current need that we have. Well, actually, what am I doing? Hopgood out. We'll just push Curran up. And then just, I don't know. Let's just get rid of the players we can afford maybe. It's because it's trying to show dual position. Not the best at trading in fantasy. So we could just do the one trade. Hopgood out because we're going to get rid of him anyway. He's not going to make a lot of money even if he does go good this week. We can sort of bank some cash there from those guys and then flip them next week. So Jackson Purdue, welcome to the team. So it does mean we don't get Couchman for another week, which is not ideal. As I said, he would be the gun target, but I think this makes more sense just in terms of we've got 17 this week. It's not going to be groundbreaking, but I guess we've got that coverage next week with the Roosters coming back in. It could always be a case of that. Well, now we've got Purdue. Kiraz could become Couchman. If, he's not up next week, we can trade for whoever and the money might work out. And that would fix the middle problem that we have as well. So I think that's the plan. One trade now that I've talked it through, but we will come back on Thursday and confirm. I guess we should do captain, vice captain as well. Probably just bring Payne Haas back in the conversation, but Terrell May's doing a job. Against Penrith, he'll want to, stand up and do big things once again. Aaron Clark against the Sharks as well could be in there. Claude Matangi, when do they play? Against the Raiders. That's going to be, he'll be doing a bit of work. So yeah, we'll come back and I'll have a look what everyone else is doing and thinking, and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's the team. So if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the NRL Fantasy content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. Other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.